Hi, it's Monday, August 8th, 2016. Monaco 64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. I'll be talking about the free market and the system we have now, which is, it is supposedly called capitalism and free market to a lot of people, but in my opinion, we don't have it. And what I'll be talking about today is two interesting articles, both in the FT. And I don't like the FT, but you need to read sometimes what the mainstream is writing about. So one of the main articles today, the headline says, "Business pushes back on national living wage." And it says, "Trade groups call on business secretary to exercise caution on ambitious 2020 target." So this is in the UK. The UK government, they've set up what they call a national living wage, and they want to increase it to £9 and 2 pence an hour by 2020. The business groups that are like writing to the government and telling them to be cautious about increasing the minimum wage are, and I quote here, trade associations that signed the letter to Mr. Clark include the Federation of Small Businesses, the Association of Convenience Stores, the National Farmers Union, the Charity Finance Group, and the British Beer and Pub Association. So you can see that they're mostly small businesses. So, and it goes on to say at the end, a spokesman for the business department, that's the business department of the government, said that the government is committed to building an economy that works for all and ensuring that the national living wage works for employees as well as businesses of all sizes. My question is really, and of course the FT doesn't ask that question. They don't, really analyze things. My question is, should the government really be building the economy? I thought governments, function were to facilitate, the private sector to build the economy. But when you have government interfering and trying to set wages, it never ends well. And I'm not saying and I am saying, there shouldn't be, government shouldn't set, they shouldn't set wages. Businesses and employees should, decide on what they're gonna, pay, and what the employees will accept. It's like a voluntary, transaction between employer and employee. The government should have nothing to do with it. But unfortunately, in the way our economies have been run for decades, that's the way it is. And the other article is also in the FT, and it says, and this is the other end of the spectrum, it says blue chip bosses' pay packets climb to 140 times those of workers. And it goes on to say boardroom salaries rises a third since 2010. And it says it bolsters Theresa May's call for crackdown. Theresa May is the new prime minister. She's saying she wants to crack down on executive pay. Well, that's wrong as well. The fact that, the government feels that they should, be involved in setting executive pay, just as I think they're wrong in interfering in setting minimum wages. But the other point I'd like to make, because you can see the huge discrepancy and you can see why workers, wage workers are, angry and upset. Here you have, executive pay going up by a third since 2010. and blue chip bosses' pay packets climbing to 140 times those of the average worker. So you can see why they're upset. In my opinion, the reason why there's such a big discrepancy goes to the system of central banking and the fact that we don't have free markets. If we had a free market in everything, in money, in manufacturing, services, everything. If people didn't have to succumb to legal tender laws and accept and pay tax with fiat money, which can only keep going through the creation of more national debt, things would be completely different. Governments wouldn't be involved at all. Workers could say, I want to be paid in this currency. I want to be paid in that currency. There would be, no minimum wage. They probably will earn a lot more. And the other thing that the financialization of the fiat money system and globalization has done, and it's a double whammy against workers, is that since 1980 we've had a declining yields in interest rates. And what are yields and interest rates? Well, they're the cost of capital. So if the cost of capital has been declining for 35 years, executives and heads of businesses, they're gonna try to exploit or use more capital or finance their operations through the use of capital, which means better equipment, automation, robotization. And what does that do to workers? Well, that makes labor less important. So, there's people won't be earning as much because capital has been artificially made available by the central bank fiat money system, which is totally artificial. And the other thing this fits into is globalization, because aside from getting this capital subsidy, the big corporations, they get to be able to move their means of production and even sometimes services abroad, where they can sometimes get even lower wages. So yes, very interesting to see both these articles. One talking about how, bosses are earning so much more than average workers, and one, talking about how these small businesses, they're scared of, the minimum wage rising from £7.20 to £9.20 in like 4 years. They think they won't be able to cope with it. And sometimes they might not be able to, because the blue chip companies, they can cope with it. But the conclusion, and to my video is that how much better would the world be, if we had free competition, free markets, where workers weren't lumbered with national insurance, or social security taxes, where workers could choose their own currency. They could choose, I want to get paid in gold or silver or Bitcoin or Steem it, how things would be so much better. And the companies would have to be much more careful in their financing of operations. Capital wouldn't be heavily subsidized. I think the playing field would be a lot more level. There certainly wouldn't be that difference of 140 times between bosses' pay and workers' pay, in my opinion. So unfortunately, I think people will keep looking at government to solve these problems, and it will only get worse. So if you enjoy my video and analysis, please like, share, and subscribe. You can also donate to my channel via Patreon. I've got a link below, and you also can donate Bitcoin. I've got my Bitcoin address below. Thanks for watching. Bye.